Being able to now utilize all of this information that I have collected over the year for planning for next year has me really excited. This month, our garden played host to both a myriad of magic and mud, and it has probably been the fastest month of the entire year so far. I think I have 2 days left before it is January at this point. I'm not even sure what day it is on the calendar, but that also means that it's time to get my final installment of garden tours in, as I have been able to do this so far every single month for the entire year of 2020. And 2020 ending is a little bit bittersweet for us because for me personally, it has been a year of huge growth for both the garden and myself and our family. And it's been a good year. As much as it's been a very hard year, it has been a really successful year in a lot of different senses for prioritizing things, and being able to now utilize all of this information that I have collected over the year for planning for next year has me really excited. It may not look like there's a lot to be seeing this time of year. It tends to look pretty much the same as it did in November, except that the snow is a bit crunchier because it's a bit colder. But I really love these bright, sunny winter days versus the gray where it's still a bit more mild. When you get it really crisp like this, the snow sparkles, the sunshine is glorious. This is the best kind of a winter day. So I'm going to take advantage of it today, do a quick little walkthrough and show you the little nuances of changes that have been happening. And then I'm going to start using all of this information, all of this data, to then make resolutions for my garden for 2021 so that it can be its best year yet. And our little bee house over here, insect house, whatever you want to call it, this was a hoppin' place. Had so many visitors this year, did really well. There's a lot of controversy around these, so I'm gonna wait and see how it fares over the winter months. I will have to figure out a way to clean out the tubes next spring after they emerge, and we'll see how many bees we help to overwinter. Otherwise though, the bees often can be found emerging from this area of my garden over here. I keep the mulch off of this area and just do kind of a chop and drop with some of the longer pithy stems back here, and this is the natural bee colony, so we get a lot of native ground bees that live in here. And I try to include both stones, logs, pithy stems, yard waste in the garden space to help get pollinators through the winter and keep it as a thriving ecosystem and not a pristine, perfect for the humans who aren't even out enjoying it sort of space. So starting us down by the road here, I think the biggest success this winter, this month particularly, has really been the Christmas lights. They brought both myself and the neighborhood so much joy. This teepee has done so well for us throughout the year. It's definitely a piece that I want to build on and do more of moving forward, are these sort of natural structures like this for both growing vegetables and then for playing in. I'm really excited to see how the growth of this Weigela takes off next year, because this one here I had chopped back early spring and it rebounded just as I hoped it would. So I'm hoping to see a lot more growth from this coming year, but some of the buds have already been set on that. And this burning bush has also really just taken off this year. It's going to need some shaping moving forward. There's a lot of crossing members inside. I could probably do quite a bit to thin it and prune it out to a better shape to my liking. The lavender, from pruning all the woody bits out, it has also done incredibly well and has been pumping out a lot of new growth and is looking happier than ever. I think this one here is the one that I am most excited about. This is my red bud, and it has done, let me just take my gloves off here, a lot of growth in this last year. It is looking absolutely beautiful. It's, I'd say, probably doubled in size since I put it in, and that's saying a lot because it's still not a very big tree, but it was about half of this size previously. And I still haven't gotten any blooms, so maybe spring 2021 will be my year where it finally blooms for me. And a few others that have done really well are the roses, and these guys actually started putting out new growth in, you can see some of them here, it's like in the snow. They started to not just put out buds, but actual new leaf growth, because our December was so mild and our November was mild as well, that they tried to continue growing right into when we were getting snow. And then other ones here, they've held on to the green, which is always such a lovely sight. But even just the dried rose heads on them. Oh, if I actually put the camera on it. These are always so much fun and so nice to see. And I love the kind of sad romance that they bring to the garden in the wintertime, if that's a thing. But it's something that I do like. Now, my dogwood here, I have noticed, has some scale. And so it looks like that is what is troubling it. So I'm probably going to do a bit of a renovation prune on this one. This is one that responds really, really well to renovation pruning, so I can hack it back and it should rebound no problem, and it will also probably get some better growth instead of having all of this crisscrossing member. I'm really hopeful that the buds this coming year are going to be bigger. I fertilized everything with that compost tea this year, but the buds this year compared to last year were significantly shorter and smaller for both the alliums, for the liatris. This is the nice thing about documenting your space year over year, is you can compare and see the changes. So we'll see if maybe there wasn't enough nutrients going on in here, because I haven't actually tested the soil, and maybe that will help. And if not, then I will just have to keep watching and see what is it that is causing different size blooms as the year progresses. And now that the viburnum has lost all of its leaves, we can now see the difference between, let's see here, flower buds for next year and leaf buds for next year. If we can get that to focus, not on me, doesn't want to focus. Quite a few, not as many as I had hoped for flower buds. It looks like it may still be a bit of a sparse year, but once again, the plant has put on a lot of growth this year, like quite a bit of growth. So we'll see how that also continues, but I'm really waiting for the day when this garden actually becomes a mature garden, because it's still a very juvenile space, and it's so frustrating having the patience to wait for it all to grow. Mugo pine is doing beautifully. Our pansies still have fresh flowers. Like, this is they are not quitting. They're still putting out all sorts of new flowers, new growth. They are troopers. Lavender, I usually mound it up just with some mulch around the base after chopping it back to get it through our winters, and it hasn't let me down yet. So I'm pretty confident that it will do just fine. We have one juniper back here, which I've never really talked about in any of my tours because it's just kind of there, but this time of year it begins to shine and show off. And it was here when I moved in, and there was another one that flanked it over on this side, and it wasn't doing very well over there. So I had moved it thinking that it was just too sheltered. It didn't like the little microclimate that it was in, and that maybe it needed more water, it needed more something. So I've moved it out here, but I'm thinking now, because it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and the needle drop on it, that I'm pretty sure that it has some scale. It is looking so sad. And at this point, based on how busy I was this year and how far I let it go, I don't think it's going to be worth salvaging and trying to nurse back to health. And I don't want to risk it spreading into other plants, which it may have already started to do. So I'm going to be hauling this out, I think, next spring. And that way it doesn't continue to transfer. And I might just keep it in a pot and try and nurse it back to health in an area where it won't impact everybody else. And I will probably look for another evergreen of some sort, because I don't have too many evergreens in this space. But as for growth, these two shrubs over here blew my mind this year. The amount of growth that both the purple leaf sandcherry have put on and my mock orange have put on, I am so happy with the progress. These two showstoppers, which is great because purple leaf sandcherry is one of my favorites. The blueberries over here are another one where if we start looking at the buds, and for those that aren't aware, buds being put out in the fall and winter is entirely normal. It is not a sign that, you know, the end of the world is coming and plants are having stress from confusion, but rather it's a very normal process. So here you can see we've got a bunch of new buds coming on. And once again, they're not as many buds as there was going into last winter. I've got to go back and actually double check my footage from January, but from what my memory serves, we do not have as many buds on any of the plants so far. I'm not sure if it's just going to come out later on and it's still conserving energy, but that is the one kind of observation that I have noticed. And between last month and this month, the big difference out here is I've just added some straw to help get this through the winter months. You may be wondering about this little beast over here, and I never got around to setting it up. And when I had looked at reviews online about it, it had some pretty crappy ones. It seems like it was pretty gimmicky, and I would have to agree with all of the reviews. Straight out of the box, it had a hole and it won't hold air in the top part. So if getting an igloo for your kids to play in the winter sounds like fun, I would say build them one out of snow. Don't bother with these. It's not worth your money. My little Christmas tree over here is still doing absolutely great. He's all decorated out. We'll clean him up later on, and then I'm gonna have to tuck him away so that his pot is a little bit more protected for the winter months. I normally tuck him in the back and then mulch him down with some straw or some leaves. So to see what I do with all of this information and the resolutions that I'm going to be setting, make sure to check out these videos over here. And in case you want to see what this looks like when it's green and lush and not all packed down and icy, then I will leave the full playlist in the description below for you to check out. And we'll see you in 2021.